I'm Mitchell Levy, Global Credibility Expert, and we are at one of the funnest times of my day, and that is interviewing an exceptional leader on how they go about leading and living their values. Marcia Barnes, I am so excited to have you here today. Welcome.
Excited to be here with you.
Oh, you are always my pleasure. We had I always do a preliminary conversation with my guests, and I just so enjoyed our conversation, getting to meet you and learning and interacting. And I do something different. What I like to do is throw the ball in the air and throw it over to you and say, Marcia Barnes, who are you?
All right. I'm a poor farmer's daughter. No, you said less words, but I am I'm a marketer. I own a marketing agency called Valve+Meter Performance Marketing. I love helping and serving people to get transformational results and create the best outcomes they've ever created.
Okay, that's the business side of you. Who else are you?
Well, that's it. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not true.
Oh shoot! I'm a mother, a grandmother. I work a lot in philanthropy and nonprofit space. In fact, tomorrow night we've got 50 business leaders across our city coming in to learn about how to build a home in Mexico for the less fortunate. So I walk in a lot of different spaces, Mitchell. It's an exciting breadth of things that I get to participate in.
I love that. Tell me about the the nonprofits, philanthropic stuff. Man, I can't say that this morning. Tell me a little bit more about that. Why, and how did you choose which ones to play with?
Sure. So I write a lot about that in my book. I have that book that just came out, Here We Grow. It's given me time to think about it because it was part of what I wanted to write about in the book. But as a business, we are in stewardship of resources and of people and their development. And so I've enjoyed giving and have enjoyed being someone who contributes to making the world a better place for others. And I'm working on raising up a company of givers. So I think when we can participate that at the junction of our personal lives and our business lives and share our talent as well as our treasure, that can be a blessing both ways. The groups I work with, they get something from me, but they also invest in me and my development and helping me become a whole person on this side of the kingdom.
I love that concept. So I'm going to say there's something I'm putting a tack in the wall because
Sure.
we're going to come back to raising a company of givers. So I'm going to come back to that one. How do you choose which, since you've wanted to do philanthropic stuff, how did you choose one versus another?
Sure.
For instance, the thing you're doing tomorrow night, why that one? Or
Yeah. So Homes of Hope builds homes in Mexico for the less fortunate. And, I grew up in a very compromised environment as a child. We were poor. My mother was abusive and addicted to drugs. And by the grace of God and a whole lot of other people coming alongside of us to encourage us and help us to learn and grow and develop, we broke through those cycles. My sisters and I did. You're 98% likely to repeat those cycles. And we have not done that in our adult lives and are raising kids that are very healthy as well. And so because of that, of what happened to me as a kid and has happened to me over the lifetime, I am drawn to and called to serve in places that help break cycles of addiction, poverty, and abuse. So that's kind of a calling that I sense. For some people, it's an inner purpose. It's something they're passionate about. I typically will explain it as where your passion and your strengths and where you can bear fruit intersect, where those three things intersect. That's where you should aim your giving and aim your job and your goals and the way you're raising families and all of the stuff that is involved in how do you become the better best you that you can.
Give me a story of something you've done in your outside work that just soothed the soul?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that question, Mitchell, because I had this happen over the last couple of weeks, and I turned to my assistant and longtime friend Ashley, and I said, this is what I like about being me the most. So
I love that.
there's lots of things to like, but this is the one, right? But I have a gentleman that I worked with for about 15 years at another job. And he was just such an impressive young leader. And I watched him grow from a frontline performer to an executive. And he had, a few years ago, he had moved into another business, and that business has hit some problematic times. And so they had to cut some people loose that were good performers. And this guy was such a good performer. I actually write about him in my book. And that space there's not a lot of people that I wrote about, so that's how good he was. And he was so frightened with 4 weeks of severance and no network or job lined up. And he reached out to me. We hadn't talked for a long, long time. And he told me what had happened. And I told him, don't be fearful. You are the guy that every business is looking for. So put fear aside and just embrace who you are. This is going to be an easy walk for you. And so I made half a dozen phone calls. He had 3 or 4 interviews from those. And on Friday, he texted me and said that he called it 2.9 weeks from fire to hire. I don't know how it got 2.9 in a 7-day week, but I didn't say he was good at math. He's a good leader. He said, I got a great offer with a great company, and it was one of the ones I had hooked him up with. And he was so relieved, and not just relieved. You take care of the relief's the first step, right? But then also stepping into what the possibilities are. And this company that he's joining is fantastic, and they're growing really great, and they have great leadership. So I like the world where outside of work, and I'm a busy person. We're all busy people. But I hit the pause button and slowed down a little bit to help someone else break through a cycle, right? And that's the type of thing I like to do. Yeah. Is that helpful, Mitchell?
Yes. Well, I'm going to say we'll do yes and, right? The yes is this is someone who just is in your orbit, right? Not a direct consequence. This is just you as a giver, right? Sharing that inside your company allows your employees to see that. Now we're going to come back to the tack we put in the ground. How does a CEO of a company go about? I don't want the theoretical answer, even though I'm asking. How does the CEO of the company go around creating a culture of giving or a culture of givers inside a company? What are some of the things that you focus on?
Well, you can't teach what you can't do, in my opinion. Kouzes and Posner in the Leadership Challenge, their data showed, and the book that they wrote from that showed that model the way was the first step, right? So you've got to model the way. I think servanthood is the first step to giving. So we try to do service projects, and we try to experience that as a team building exercise, and to help our people understand the world outside of our homes or our businesses, right? I think it's about teaching how the philosophy of giving and what giving strategies should look like, the discipline of giving. It's not like, and I write a lot about it in my book about if you're growing a business and creating abundance, giving is something you need to have as a strategy. Every year I set a giving goal before I set a revenue goal or an earnings goal. So there's things that I'm doing that I would hope would be something that they would model. I like to involve people in decisions that we're making and investing, company donations and giving. Our people run our service projects. So it's not something that I'm saying do this and do that and do the other. They are organically starting to learn how and when and why we do that. And when you have a CEO that has a focus on breaking cycles of addiction, poverty, and abuse, you tend to attract a lot of employees who have had that same thing happen for them. And so you find some commonality in the heart and the head matching in those spaces,
if it's not too close to home, give me an example of what happened, of something that happened inside the company that isn't necessarily something that you did, but as a result of a giving culture happened inside the firm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can do that without crying.
Uh-oh.
Shoot. Last year we had one of our leaders here at Valve+Meter, an executive. Her daughter was expecting a baby that wasn't supposed to be born for 2 weeks, and my team member went to Nashville for a wedding, and she's about 5 hours away, and she had just pulled into Nashville when her daughter went into labor back in Indianapolis, and she's called 11 different family members and hasn't been able to reach anyone to go and get the daughter and take her to the hospital and all of the things. So she calls her colleague, the VP of HR here at Valve+Meter, and he says, and she called him just, do you know somebody who could help me? And he got up at 2 a.m. and off he went, or 12 midnight, he gets up and goes to get this girl and take her to the hospital, which was a pretty good drive. And then he stayed with her 3-year-old daughter while she was being tended to by the hospital staff until his team member, the grandmother, had arrived back in Indianapolis. And I just thought that was a great model of going above and beyond. And then as I watched the next few days unfold, they were in the process of moving houses, and team members helped them with the move, and team members went over and set up a baby crib for her, and people were throwing her little showers and stuff. And I never said to do any of it. I didn't participate in any of it. But as the stories just kept rolling back of layer upon layer upon layer of loving and serving one another well, those are 2 of our core values here at Valve+Meter. That's when I have hope for our world, is when our people are picking that up and taking it outside of these walls,
Wow. We did it. You actually told the story without crying.
I know. I had to really brace myself.
Well, emotionally, it's so amazingly powerful. And the truth is, the fact that it's the VP of HR that just wouldn't even because that's a place where you normally go, wait, can't do this. Right. There's a violation somewhere. Right.
He jumps in the car and off he goes, And if I dial back 25 years in a business that I owned earlier in my career in a small rural town, I had a lady working for me, and I was running the business, and I have a son with cerebral palsy, and he was going to have a surgery that would put him in the hospital for about 90 days, and we had a 2-hour commute to the hospital, and we didn't have a lot of money. I know I owned a business, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're rich. And at the time we didn't have any spare money, but I had planned everything out, and we could manage it all except the gas money to get back and forth to the hospital. So we were wondering how often we could be able to go see him during those 90 days or 60 days. So she went, unbeknownst to me, one night I hear a knock on the door on a Sunday night, and it's the pastor of Carol's church, and they have done a love offering for us. And they had, there we go. I promised you some crying. But Mitchell, they gave us this little sack, and the sack was purple velvet with a gold string, a Crown Royal bottle wrapper. Do you drink Crown Royal?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
It comes in this little velvet bag. My dad worked 30 years at Seagram, so I'm real familiar with their product. But that's what they had their love offering in. It was a bunch of change and some wadded up dollar bills that this little tiny church had dug in their pockets that day and gave us. And I just threw the little bag of money in the car, and I thought that's going to be the gas money. And after 60 days on my last trip home with that kid, I filled the tank, and I had exactly the amount of money I need on the last day for the last tank of gas from that giving,
Wow.
That's not me as a business owner doing something for an employee. That's an employee doing that for her business owner. Giving is so around the business and not top down and not bottom up, and I think God invites us to participate in that with him. He doesn't need our money, he needs our hearts. And so it's always fun to see us and feel us engaging in that way.
Wow. Thanks. We can call this, like, we still got a couple more minutes, but this was good. This was really beautiful. There's so much to unpack. I mean, the fact that most employees of companies, they look up and they go, it's the CEO. They have tons of money. I don't need to help them. But it's really about what your stories ultimately lead towards is work is a 4-letter word, and many people treat it that way, as a negative 4-letter word, where really you're treating it as this is community.
Right. And it's worship. It's very spiritual. And, business owners and business in general can get a bad rap about being evil and greedy and stingy and all that. But if that's what you're looking for, that's what you'll see. But if you peel it back a little further, you'll also see a whole lot of people doing way more than I could ever imagine doing. There's a company in Charlotte, North Carolina that I have personally toured and seen what they've done there. And I think they're the largest mortgage organization in the whole country, Movement Mortgage, started by Casey after he got done with his football career. In 2008, he starts a mortgage company. Now think about 2008 and what's going on in the mortgage industry. And he just felt like mortgages were being done in a way that it was not healthy for people, and thought he could reinvent it. And by God, he did. And that guy put 49% of his company is owned by a group called the National Christian Foundation. It's a donor-advised fund. So 49% of the earnings of his company goes straight into giving and helping others. And he still tithes and still gives. In addition to that, I personally know for a fact he has given away hundreds of millions of dollars. I've toured the schools and the groceries and the coffee shops and the worship centers and the things that he's doing in urban Charlotte to heal their city. I know he does a lot of things internationally too, but that we don't hear about those stories, right? We hear about the corporate greed stuff, but if you look, there's a whole lot of good being done by business in this world.
I love that. I knew the first time we spoke, what was it, like the first minute or two? Oh, you're good. You're on. I always do you're on. Let's have a fun conversation, and we did. And what I see as I'm speaking to you, or a better way as I feel as I'm speaking with you, is you just approach life with your heart, right? And what that means is being cognizant of the world around you. It means being a servant leader. To be credible, it's having the intent and commitment to do the right thing. So you do the right thing by your clients, but you do it in a way that the entire ecosystem is excited about who you are and what you do and how you contribute. That's just amazing.
And I'm excited about the ecosystem, and participating in it. I really, if you told me that I couldn't do it anymore, that would be the end of me being in business, because I'm in business for a mission, Yeah.
All right. Well, tell me, what is that? Tell me the mission. And then, by the way, as you're tying it in, the setting your giving goals before you set your corporate goals, that's also an interesting angle.
Right. I like transformational growth. I've experienced transformational growth personally, not just in my capability as a business person, but in my the way that wealth has worked out for me, that influence has worked out for me. I like working in environments where people can come in and they can have a transformational experience. And transformed means It's a noticeable change in form or condition. It's not just something, oh, there's a little improvement. No, it's freaking awesome what this person has changed from here to there. And when I look at clients, I want to be able to create that transformational experience with them. I want to be able to unlock the keys to transformational growth for a client. And if I don't think that's possible, we're not excited about taking that business. We want to be in environments where you can tell we've been there and shown up and made that change. I think it is part of us all healing the world together. And I like working with like-minded clients who get that and are doing similar things. I just came back from a corporate board that I'm on, and this company gives 20% of their profits to help people. And top of that, they have funds that they contribute to help take care of employee crises. And there's all kinds of folks out there that are showing love and service in the context of business.
I love that. A corporate fund for employee emergencies.
Yeah. What they call it? Love I forget what they call it, but it's got the word love in it. And they contribute to it, and employees can contribute to it. And if somebody has a crisis, like they had an employee die of COVID, and there weren't a lot of funeral plans made, they can go into that type of a fund to help with that.
Wow, that's cool. I wonder how many. It just brings me a question. It's a good Bard question. Like, how many companies have a employee emergency fund?
I have not done that here at Valve+Meter. It's on my to-do list, but I've not done that yet. Movement Mortgage, who I talked about earlier, they have that same type of a program. So, and it's administered by team members. It's not something that the management team or the CEO is making decisions about. So those are all, there's just, when you really go out and study it and look at it, there's a lot of different manifestations of giving. There's a group called the it's called Generous Giving. If you go to www.generousgiving.com, you'll find them online. They are privately funded. They will never ask you for $1. They exist to share people's stories about giving. And so they'll find cool stories like some of the ones I've just related, and they'll capture those in video or in black and white and share those with folks. They help people understand generosity and understand giving. They put on events that help you with learning about that, and they'll never ask you for any donation.
I marked it on my link to look at, as well as to ask that question of Bard. It's kind of an interesting thought process. All right. So how do you, when you wake up when you're starting a new year, what is the concept of coming up with your giving bonus or giving goal first?
Right. Typically you're looking at business conditions and the pace that you're growing at and forecasting where you'll think you'll be at an end of a year. And then looking at what does that mean for giving, and does that seem like the right number? Does it seem like that's going to cover what you're being called to do and what you're inspired to do and the commitments that you've made? And then adjusting your revenue and performance accordingly. We've had a couple of thin years of profitability here at Valve+Meter, and we're choked off a bit on the way we like to give. And it just feels like some tension in us, and the tension's not coming from let's be more profitable. It's coming from we're not able to do all the things we want to do as a business because we're not hitting our profit goals, right? The last 3 years with COVID and economic change and all the stuff has not been the best 3 years to be a marketing agency, but we're doing a lot of great things, just not at the same pace, at the pace we'd like to do it always.
Marcia, you're absolutely amazing. So I have two more questions I want to ask, and so stick around for the second question for those who are here. But the first thing is, if people are inspired by you, whether it's a prospective business, whether it's a prospective employee, or they just want to learn more, what's a good way for people to reach out to you?
Our website has a lot of the context of what you'd be looking for on when you're looking into Valve+Meter, whether you're looking to be part of a team or be a client here, valveandmeter.com. And then I would encourage you to pick up the new book we have out called Here We Grow, How to 10x Your Results and Transform Your Future. I'm just starting to see, this has been out about 6 weeks, and Mitchell, I'm starting to see what people are getting from the book as they pick it up and read it. They're being inspired for giving. They're being challenged by how they're doing their marketing and how they're measuring results. They're getting some ideas around should they be outsourcing or should they have an internal team to do their marketing. So it's my story. It's about math before marketing. It's about building leaders, and quite a bit in there on giving strategies as well.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Well, thank you for that. Now, are you doing a Audible version of that at some point in time?
I am. I've finished recording it, and it's being edited right now. So it's available in paperback or Kindle, soon to be audio.
I did that because I went to Amazon and I'm like, I need the Audible version for me personally. So
right.
Let's just make sure. I will definitely put in an order for that when it's on Audible. So given how this conversation has gone, is there a particular question that I should have asked you that I didn't? Or tell me a little bit more about, like, is there something you want to make sure we cover for the final question of this conversation?
Right. You asked me a lot of questions about how to create strategies for giving and how to do it. So it made me think, how did I learn? And I was tracking back through that. And years ago, I was in my 20s. Things were tight. We didn't have that much money, and I was Catholic at the time. And they don't usually talk about tithing a lot from the pulpit in a Catholic church, typically. But for whatever reason, for 4 consecutive Sundays, we had lay teachers come in and teach us about their experiences with tithing and what they had learned about their relationship with money and with God. And so I came away convicted that I needed to be more structured in my way. I wasn't disciplined around a 10% tithe or how I was doing that, where I was giving. So I said, Sunday, I'm going to start doing this. And on Friday, by Friday, Sunday's way in the rearview mirror, I'm thinking, man, we got to pay some bills here, and we don't have. I actually think it was on Monday. We're paying bills and we're short on the money, so let's pay the tithe next week. And on Tuesday, I go to work and I go to get some money out of the bank for lunch and find out that I've overdrafted my account and I have $50 in overdraft fees. And the tithe was $50, Mitchell, that I should have made, right? And I'm like, well, I get it. You're teaching me a lesson here, God. But no, he's not done. So I'm driving home and I get a flat tire. It cost me $50 to get the tire fixed. $50, not $50.10, $50. Now I'm in a hurry to get home because the family's waiting on me for dinner, and I'm speeding, and I get pulled over for a speeding ticket, and the speeding ticket is $50. So I got 3 lessons within about 6 hours of each other about when you hold back $50 from the Lord that you've committed to,
Oh, that is way, yeah. It is funny sometimes how just in case the first time out wasn't enough, you needed right. 3 times to remind you.
Yeah, he knows I make every mistake twice just to make sure it's a mistake.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm pretty good at not always getting it the first time. Marcia, this is amazing. I want to mention one thing just in terms of what we're doing. One of the new things that we've done, this is for the audience, is normally you'd hear me talk about the Ultimate Credibility Bootcamp. We're starting something new. The good news, Credibility Bootcamp was 16 hours, huge chunk of time, and we would often burn people out. Yeah. So what we're doing instead is a 4-hour credibility booster shot. And so I'll make sure for those different platforms we're in, I'll make sure there's a link there.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It's yeah, it's well, we've taken the Ultimate Credibility Boot Camp and we've now created 6 booster shots out of it. And so anyhow, I just thought I'd share that for the audience. Marcia, you were absolutely spectacular. At the name of the show is Leaders Living Their Values, and you lead, you exemplify, you're sharing. You were fantastic, absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It was delightful speaking with you, and your energy around these topics is palpable. And I just love the fact that you're getting out in front of the leaders of tomorrow and helping them grow.
Gives me chills. That was the most perfect thing to say. And so for those of you who are still here, here's your time to spread some cred dust. Click on the like button, share with your friends, write down those aha moments that you got out of this conversation, and we'll see you at the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.